Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, shall we start or just wait for 5 minutes? Okay, let's start. Actually, it's a huge block. It will take some time, and I believe 4 units, completing 4 units within 2 hours, it will be a huge task for me also. So let's start. Okay, Ganesh Sir Prusti.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, keep your mic off.
Okay, okay. Thank.
Okay. So whenever you will be asking, I think in the previous class also, same pattern will be following. You will ask questions at the end only, or else I will not find much time explaining the concepts. Okay, so we'll start. Okay, now the screen is visible. Few of you kindly respond whether the screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so we have already discussed about the first block where we have completed about, you know, we have completed about the nature and scope of population geography. Then we have studied about the population distribution, demographic and economic composition. I think we are left with unit 4, that is basically the socio-cultural composition, and we'll be dealing with this after the completion of this class. And about the block 2, I haven't received any materials or no the subpoints regarding population theories, then population dynamics, population and development, population policy. I will ask the regional center to provide me the documents, to provide me the study materials, then only I can continue. Okay, so today we'll be discussing the block 3, so which is basically about the evolution and growth of human settlements, and we'll be dealing with 4 units. So first unit is about the nature and scope of settlement geography, and the second unit will be discussing about the evolution and growth of human settlements. Then in the third unit we'll be discussing about the spatial distribution of human settlements, and in the last unit we'll be discussing about the functional classification of human settlements. Okay, so first of all, what do you mean by human settlement? So human settlement, it can simply be referred as a place of dwelling or permanent residence. Okay, so it can range from a single house to, a megapolis. Okay, so all these are settlements. So what are the different things that we are basically studying under the settlement? So we are studying about the size, about the locality, about the different economic activities that is being performed by the settlers. Okay, so these are different things that we basically study under no about the settlements. So there are basically two types of settlements, as we know, rural settlements and urban settlements, and they are basically divided based on the functions they perform. Okay, so as a student of geography, why we are studying about the settlement geography? Now, because we have already studied about the population geography, and I think I have given you why it is relevant to study population under the geography discipline. Okay, so likewise, if we are studying about the population, so it becomes important to understand the human settlement. Now, now because these settlements are the things that we are actually staying. Okay, so the settlements are performing different functions also. So based on that, we are categorizing these settlements. So what we can consider a settlement? Settlement is nothing but a spatial unit. So uh, based on its interaction, based on its degree of habitation, we have we are actually categorizing these settlements. So within settlements, what are the different things that we will be studying? We are basically studying about the natural landscape, the structure and form, then different aerial arrangement. So to what extent a settlement is there, okay, over the space, then different historical background and economic and cultural activities that is being performed in the settlements. Okay, so due to time limitation, I will not be able to discuss all the definitions that has been given here, and you can go through all these definitions that has been given by a lot of geographers and even other population scientists and all those people who are studying the human settlements. Okay, you can go through these definitions later on. If you don't find if you find any difficulty, then you can ask me. So through the definitions of settlement, we'll be discussing about what is the nature of settlement geography. Okay, so and here we'll be discussing about the evolution of settlement geography. Then what are the different facets of settlement geography, and based on the definition, we'll also be discussing about the nature and scope of settlement geography. So basically, settlement geography. Within settlement geography, we come across these three facets. Okay, so first one is the settlement as a unit. So whenever we are considering the settlement as a unit, what we are actually looking into, we are dealing with the internal organization, the morphology, the socioeconomic structure, and its relation with the physical environment. So all these are studied under settlement as a unit. This is basically a broad concept. Let's try to understand settlement as a unit. Now, because as a unit we are studying all these things, then settlement as a part of the system or part of a system. So what it focuses basically on the interconnectedness. No, it basically which involve ranking, hierarchy, and classification of settlements. So just like classification of settlements, I think I have given examples of rural settlement and urban settlement, in which we have classified those settlements based on that only. Okay, and then about ranking, we'll be discussing about the rank size rule and primate city, and in which we'll discuss about different rankings. Then settlement as a part of landscape. So what does that really mean? I think uh, in geographical thought, you might have already studied about the human ecology or the cultural landscape. It's not only all those landforms are actually building the landscape. So that is basically the natural landscape. Now, if we'll be understanding about the human landscape, it is basically being built by the settlement. Now, what are these? Now, because all those activities, all those functions that are being performed by the settlement will build the landscape. It may be a cultural landscape, it may be an economic landscape. So all these landscapes are studied under settlement. So then what are the different natures of settlement geography? So definitely settlement geography is very distinctive in character. Okay, so it is settlement centric, and that basically focuses on both urban and rural settlements. Most of the scholars they restrict its study to rural settlements. Now while no now because uh, they have created the dichotomy with the urban geography. Now because rural settlements and urban settlements all together we are studying that in settlement geography, while a lot of geographers are actually studying the urban geography in a different branch. So that basically is creating a dichotomy within geography. So this is the distinctive characteristic of settlement geography. Then settlement geography is basically interdisciplinary in nature. Now how it is interdisciplinary in nature? Now it's not only geography that actually studies the human settlements. A lot of disciplines like economics, sociology, even history, and architecture, so all these people are also, now all the people who are engaged in these kind of disciplines are also studying the human settlements. So different models based on economic and sociological principles, uh, it basically is making it as a social science. It's not that it is interdisciplinary in nature. What does that really mean? It is both science and art. Now whenever we'll be studying the human settlement, it not only including the arts part or the humanities part, it is also having the science part. So that's why it is basically interdisciplinary in nature, and it is basically a systematic science. What does that really mean, a systematic science? you know when when we are dealing with structured analysis of human settlements, just like now what are the different functions of human settlements, so all these are basically included under your systematic science. So as a geographer, what is the basic role of geographers? So as a geographer, you add the essential spatial dimension to the settlement stories. Now geography, we are basically study the areal differentiation. What does that really mean? It means all the differences that we find over the space is being studied under the discipline of geography. So as a geographer, what is our role in terms of understanding the human settlement, in terms of contributing to the field of human settlement? So it is basically uh, we need to add that spatial dimension to the human settlement studies. So all these are explained in this paragraph. You can go through it, have a look. This is what I have discussed about the interdisciplinary approach, and it studies both arts and science. This has been explained in this paragraph. You can go through it. Then what is the scope of settlement geography? So there are different approaches in which we are basically studying settlement geography, and we have a descriptive approach, we have positivist approach, then we have humanistic approach. So within positivist approach, what we are actually studying, so mostly in 19th century, people basically adopted this approach, positivist approach. So that basically emphasized upon the collection of socioeconomic data through different questionnaires and schedules. Then it basically focused on cause and effect relationships. So that lead to the use of advanced statistical techniques and computer aided data analysis. So this is the positivist approach. We are basically using different models, we are basically using statistical techniques and analyzing the scope of settlement geography. But in humanistic approach, so what is the scope of settlement geography in positivist approach will be different from that of the scope of settlement geography based on the humanistic approach. Okay, so within positivist approach, we are studying about all the morphological sections of human settlement. We are studying about all the functions that are being performed by a urban settlement, an urban settlement, or a rural settlement, and all the economic factors which are included, or all the economic activities which are included within that aspect. So in positivist approach, we are basically dealing with that portion. But in humanistic approach, so definitely humanistic approach basically rejects the positivist approach. Now why? Now humanistic approach basically introduced the concepts like behavioral environment, your social space, and mental maps. So and humanistic approach basically followed the qualitative, it is basically a qualitative approach. Now while positivist approach basically followed the quantitative nature, while the humanistic approach basically followed the qualitative approach, and in which it emphasized upon different ideas, different values, and what are the different behaviors of different communities who are they are staying or dwelling in those kind of settlements, and what are the different cultures that is being represented in rural settlement and in urban settlements. So based on that, the scope of human settlement also changes. Okay, so within humanistic approach, we are basically human centric, where we are studying about what the people are doing, what are the different cultures that are being followed there. While within positivist approach, we are basically looking into what is the settlement in broader perspective, and how quantitatively we can study the human settlement part. So based on that, what we can actually synthesize, you know, we have a genesis and growth of settlements. Okay, genesis and growth of settlement. So what that includes? It includes mostly the settling process of humans, site and situation, tenancy. Okay, settlement diffusion, etc. are studied under uh, the genesis and growth of settlement. These are all the subject matters of settlement geography. Okay, so all these points, okay, all these points that has been given in point 1, 2, and these are all the subject matters of human settlement. So first is your genesis and growth of settlements, within which we are basically studying about the site situation, then settling process of human, and settlement diffusion. So all these are the genesis and growth of settlements. Then you have the morphology section. Okay, so morphology basically study about the structure and form of any physical landform. Okay, so just like geomorphology, we are studying about the landforms. So what we are studying? We are basically studying about uh, the qualitative aspects of landforms. Okay, now although within morphology section we can also study the quantitative aspects of landforms, but mostly in geomorphology, that is what we basically study. In settlement geography, the morphology basically defines the physical morphology, the functional morphology, and the social morphology. So within physical morphology, we are basically studying about the internal structures as well as the external structure. So which involves horizontal and vertical dimensions. So just like in cities, the vertical dimension will be more, there are skyscrapers in urban centers, and while in rural areas, and the growth of cities through suburbanization areas and through satellite towns is basically the horizontal dimension. Okay, so that is basically the horizontal expansion. So we are basically dealing with the urban centers or urban settlement. So within functional morphology, we we basically deal with the functional zones, then delimitation and hierarchy of settlement. Delimitation, I think, if now when we'll be studying about the regional geography, you'll understand the concept of region, then what are the different steps to delineate a region. So likewise, we will have to delimitate the settlement. Okay, so that is what is included under the functional morphology. And different hierarchy of settlements. Hierarchy of settlements, just like, so you can divide the rural settlement based on the population. Okay, so if you are dividing the rural settlement based on population, so how you can classify? Based on the size of population, you can opt for different rankings. So that is basically the hierarchy. And within social morphology, and the settlement geography basically deals with religion, caste, education, educational level, then occupational structure, age, sex structure, and migration. So all these are studied under the morphology section of settlements. Okay, then you have a spatial pattern of settlement. So the spatial pattern of settlement, it basically deals with the location, distribution, size, and spacing of settlement. Now, while discussing about different types of settlement, different types of rural settlement, or different types of urban settlement, we'll be discussing about the location, about the distribution, and the size and spacing. Okay, size of population. So all these will be studied under this. So these are the subject matters of the population geography, sorry, the settlement geography. Then classification of settlements. So on the basis of different things, we can classify settlements into different categories. So on the basis of origin, it can be different types of settlements can be there. Then on the basis of location, then on the basis of functions and size, different types of settlements can be classified. Okay, then last subject matter is the identification of problems and consequent planning of settlement. Okay, so what are the different problems and what are the consequent planning that can be done in solving out those problems in rural and urban areas. Then development of settlement geography. So I think early emphasis on natural phenomena in geography was done by Ritter and Humboldt, and it is around 18th century. And in early 20th century, okay, in early 20th century, geography got broadened, and it is basically considered as a science of human ecology now, because during 20th century, the idea of possibilism came into existence, and a lot of people believed that geography is basically human centric, and a lot of geographers also argued in favor of population geography. So that's why the concept of the geography has been broadened in early 20th century. And although different micro level studies were still lacking, now because we are dealing with the settlement geography, and within settlement geography, micro level studies are also important now, because to synthesize something, to interpret and analyze and to draw conclusions about settlement geography, or about the subject matters of settlement geography, you need micro level studies. But still, towards the early 20th century, I believe no micro level studies has been done. And towards the end of 20th century, uh, uh, a lot of studies has been done in settlement space, and that is how the settlement geography came into existence, and it has got a lot of dimensions to uh, be included under the discipline of geography. So in 1895, there is a German geographer named August Metchen. So who made early contributions to different ethnographic studies. So he basically proposed the racial theory of origin of rural settlements, and then another German geographer Oslutter. So he basically established settlement geography as an independent sub branch. Okay, independent sub branch of human geography in 1899. So what are the different German contributors? Uh, you have Robert Gradman, then R. Martini, then you have Walter Christeler, so who proposed a popular theory, that is the central place theory in southern Germany. Then Martini studied around 60 distinct forms of villages in Germany. Then Christeller, I think the theory, the central place theory, has been modified by August Loss. And if you are interested in regional planning, you can go through the central place theory by Christeller. So this is a basic theory, and I think most of you might have studied in your graduation program. Then what are the different French contributions to the field of settlement geography? Uh, Vidal de Leblanc, I think, who elaborated on house building materials in his book Principles de Geographie Human. So that is basically Principles of Human Geography, where he described about different house building materials. Then Jean Brunet, so who basically prioritized settlements in human geography and classified houses in Europe based on housing materials. Okay, so which are the kacha houses and which are the different pakka houses. Okay, and which are earthen houses. Then you have Albert Demangion. So his studies on rural settlement and about the agrarian structure in small regions in France. So these studies actually helped in the development of uh, settlement geography. Then other contributors like Lucien Fever, I think you remember this name from the possibilism, and the word possibilism has been coined by Lucien Fever, and he contributed to the settlement geography in Belgium, and then you have Grano, so who basically delineated different settlement regions of Finland based on location and the safe. Okay, so Kral, who described types and classified settlements. Then, what are the American contribution to the field of settlement geography? You have C.F. Jones. So uh, he encouraged the settlement geography in USA and basically focused on the rural settlement. And his one of his article is the use of aerial photographs in geographic analysis of rural settlement. Okay, so this article has been published by C.F. John, and he contributed to this field of human geography. Then other contributors like Mark Jefferson, he's a well-known person in urban geography. Then J.K. Jeeff, so then Harris and Nelson. So all they have presented the different functional classification of urban cities that we'll be studying later. Then what are the Indian contributions to the field of human settlement? So until 1940s, there were no prior development in terms of settlement geography. It was actually R.L. Singh who significantly actually contributed to this field, and his book, The Meaning, Objectives, and Scope of Settlement Geography. So that was published in 1961. So that brought a lot of interest among different geographers, and then K.M. Singh in 1968, so who studied the territorial basis of medieval towns and villages in eastern UP. You have S.P. Chatterjee, so who basically emphasized open the size, form, functions of human settlements. A.B. Mukherjee, so A.B. Mukherjee, who analyzed empirical attributes of rural settlements in Shivalik hill tracts and spacing of villages in Ganga, Yamuna, Doab region. Okay, so mostly during 1960s. So what are the different sources of data? Sources of data for the study of human settlements. You have primary sources of data. So primary sources, that basically includes the field work, and it is basically based for smaller areas at a given point of time. Now, because if you don't have much time, then you can simply go for a larger area. So because you have to survey the whole area, okay, and it involves participatory survey and interview methods to record inhabitants and their perception about the settlement, the size, form, the structure and patterns of different settlements. So first is your field work. Within field work, you will be getting the most authentic data, but still it is very time consuming. And if you want to survey a very large space, then then here comes the limitations. Okay, so you can't simply go for a very large region and survey that settlement to get information regarding or to get data regarding the form, structure, and different patterns of the settlement. Then you have even literature, and what are the different secondary sources? So primary sources are basically first-hand sources, and where you have to collect the informations that is there. Then here in secondary sources, you have a census data. Census data basically provides you a lot of information regarding the size of population, the economic activities they are engaged in, what are the different functions that a lot of people are performing in which region. Okay, so all these kind of data can be found in census. Okay, census. Then you have statistical yearbooks. So in statistical yearbooks, it provides data about the socio-economic information. Okay. Then you have topographical maps. So within topographical maps, you get different site or different locational data. So topographical maps actually helps you in site selection and understanding about the location. Okay, so this is how topographical maps actually helps. Then you have now you are having advanced techniques and technologies where different computer aided programs actually help you in terms of getting information. So now in settlement geography, we are largely in using this kind of data. Okay, you have satellite imageries, different remote sensing data, even high resolution data can help you uh, understand about the size, understand about the characteristics, understand about the expansion of settlements. So that is going on in rural or in urban spaces. Okay, and you have different global databases, so that actually gives you satellite imageries and you know uh, high resolution images through which you can interpret about any region, about the settlements. Okay, so what are they? What they are basically national land cover database. You have graded population of the world, then global rural urban mapping project, global urban footprint, global human settlement layer. So all these data can be found over the internet and you can go through it, but you need the prior knowledge of remote sensing and GIS, so that can help you in understanding these data and finding different or drawing conclusions about the settlements. Then you have evolution and growth of human settlements. So can you imagine how we people basically preferred a settled life uh, over what our prior ancestors did? Okay, so uh, what is the basic definition of settlement? So it is basically derived from the settle, so which means to establish and become established in a more or less in a permanent way of life. So that is basically settlement. Okay, so it basically implies a fixed point in space with a definite location and identity. And what are the settlement and human attachment? Why a lot of people started settling down, and there can be different regions. Okay, so what are the different regions behind people settlement? Okay, because of mostly agriculture. Now because they needed security. So and even the topophilia, the phenomena of topophilia that has been explained here. Now a sentimental attachment to a place. So as we are all social animals, we do have sentiment and we are emotional creatures. So this is what we do. And topophilia is basically sentimental attachment to a place. And other regions like the security aspect. So within security aspect, basically uh, we basically want to live in a place, so which place is that place is much more secure. So in that way you have to settle down now, because if you'll be a nomad, then the so for nomads the security is less important. Okay, Then origin and growth of human settlements. So first information about the human settlement actually is very information about the first human settlement is very unclear, and primitive humans basically lived in caves. So they basically relied on nature for their sustenance and protection from different climatic variation and wild animals. So that basically led to the search of shelters. So that basically led to the human settlement. Now, the security aspect, because of the security aspect, a lot of people started living in settlements. They started living in, in integration. Okay, so then villages and small settlements emerged from the mutual help. With the help mutual help, uh, there came into existence the small settlements. What are the different underlying principles of creation of human settlements? Okay, so these are different principles in the creation of human settlements. First of all, the principle of maximization of human potential contact. So what is that human potential contact? What is the human potential contact in terms of natural element, or how we can maximize the contact with the natural elements and other humans and human made elements, so in which we have to maximize our contact. Okay, then minimization of effort. So we people are basically lazy, so that's why we need minimization of efforts in so what are the minimization of effort? Safe safe structures, or select routes that requires minimum effort. So all these kind of things actually led to the human settlements. Then maximization of protective space. Now, as in the previous example I have given, that we need security. So for our protection, we need the maximization of protective space. Okay, so selection of a comfortable distance from others in maintaining contact. So that is basically the maximization of protective space. Then optimization of relationship quality. Now, as social creatures, we basically need relations. Okay, in order to live happily. So that is basically the optimization of relationship quality. Then you have organization for optimum synthesis. So basically, to achieve synthesis, you need, you know, it is basically dependent on time, space, and human ability, and this can be considered under the organization. Origin and growth of human settlements. So mostly human settlements evolved somewhere around I think 10,000 BC. Okay, so in and around 10,000 BC, and before that, humans basically lived in caves. So mostly during the Neolithic phase, so the settlement began to develop as humans they learned to plant cultivation. Now, before that, for fulfilling their basic need as food, so they used to collect fruits, or they used to collect or gather different things from from the hills. Okay, from the mountains, or from the nature. So all they get from the nature, so they will be settling down based on that. But after the Neolithic phase, okay, so mostly during the Neolithic phase, so they understood the process of cultivation, they understood the agriculture. So that was the period when agriculture started. So once the agriculture started, so settlements started in nearby spaces. Okay, settlement near cultivated fields that basically emerged, and and that was basically constructed with the help of local materials. Now we nowadays we are looking into the building materials, but at that time, so whatever they got, so they used those local materials to build their houses. So what happened in Neolithic period? So Neolithic within Neolithic period, community dwellings formed with houses, shrines, and different burial grounds. Then settlements abandoned due to soil fertility decline, leading to migration. So what does that really mean? You know, a lot of people they migrated to other places. If the fertility of the soil will go down or decline, so they will simply migrate to other places. So then then started the permanent settlement. So most of the people, they when they started living near fertile lands, when there are uh, different components of nature which are supporting uh, our needs, so then those people basically started settling there. So we have already discussed about different factors or determinants of population distribution. So all these factors, so whenever human beings found those factors in one place, so they started settling down. Okay, so within permanent settlement, so humans mostly settled in those areas where there is moderate climate, there is abundance availability of water, there is fertile soil, so that will definitely support the agricultural activity. Okay, so most of the oldest settlements, those were basically traced along the river valleys in India, China, and Egypt. And those river valleys were basically fertile lands, and nearby within the periphery, the building materials are easily available, and those areas are basically plain lands, so which is easy for transportation and communication. So which are the earliest urban centers? So those basically emerged uh, post Neolithic period. Okay, so although the permanent settlement has started mostly during the Neolithic period, but the urban centers started developing, came into existence mostly in the later phase of Neolithic period. Now, where early farmers, now why that started, the concept of urban centers started because of the agricultural produces. If there will be surplus agricultural produces, so they have to sell somewhere, so to the deficit region. Okay, so that's why this actually helped in barter system. You might have already studied about the barter system. So in that way, the economic activities, the commercial activities took place, and with the development of commercial activities and the manifold economic activities, these these urban centers actually developed over a period of time. Okay, so early towns were mostly found in Egypt, Indus Valley, and Mesopotamia. So I think the oldest one is actually the Indus Valley civilization. So in Indus Valley, we have a plant structure. We have evidences of plant structures uh, in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. So even in Mesopotamia, and there was trade connections among between the Indus Valley civilization and Mesopotamia civilizations. So all these are different evidences. So which are actually helping in understanding the fact that the commercial aspect was actually flourishing at that time. So that basically led to the establishment of different urban centers. So Bronze Age and trade centers. So Bronze Age basically witnessed emergence of new trading centers. So that basically benefiting from the sea trade. Okay. Then you have caravan routes, so which are developed in deserts of Syria, Mohenjo-daro and Harappan civilization. Greek and Roman city states. So these are examples of different centers, urban centers, which were developed during the post-Neolithic period. Then came the Renaissance period, which is between 1500 AD to around 1750 AD. And within that period, basically, the expansion of different European cities took place, and a lot of Europeans, they colonized the globe, and they started expanding their ideas. They started expanding the trade. They started expanding the commerce, and in that way, a lot of urban centers established in different corners of the globe. And with the help of, I think, with the help of industrial revolution, also a lot of urban centers, and now because the transportation and communication became easy with the industrial revolution. Okay, with the industrial revolution, transportation becomes easy, and a lot of sea routes were used for uh, trading purposes, okay, commercial purposes. So that's why your seaports or the hinterlands that grew, and that basically later on established into an urban center. So if we'll be understanding about the sequential growth of human settlements, so as suggested by Louis Mumford, so there are different stages of uh, growth and different stages of decay. So within stages of growth, you have Eopolis. So that basically means rising village community. Then polis. So that is a small market town. So that blended with the traditional values and modern civic amenities. Then you have metropolis. So which means large city with a cosmopolitan population and specialized occupation. So those people are mostly engaged in secondary and tertiary activities. Then what are the different decay stages? These are the growth stages. Okay, so decay stages starts from the megalopolis. So that basically is defined as a bloated city with the dominance of material wealth and standardized products and bureaucracy. Okay, then we have Tyrannopolis. So those cities are basically fluctuating economics. Then Necropolis, the city of dead. marked by overcrowding, degradation, famine, war, and eventual decay. So necropolis is the last stage. Then what is the site and situation of settlement? Site is basically the piece of land on Earth's surface that a settlement occupies. Okay, so what does that mean? You know, the development of any settlement, that basically depends on the nature, the facilities, and favorable conditions that is being provided by the site. So if the site is included with now suitable climatic condition, fertile soil, water availability, and protection from different natural calamities, and there will be availability of natural resources, so that gonna actually uh, help in establishment of settlements. Okay, so this is the site aspect of settlement. And what are the different examples? Site aspects, the valleys, mostly the river valleys, then Piedmont villages, dry point towns, then port cities. All these are different advantageous sites. Okay, and all those areas or all those places which will be having all the facilities that is required for our basic needs, then that will actually give an advantageous no advantageous site. Okay. Then what is situation and how it is different from situation? Site is basically what natural things that you actually have, while situation encompasses basically economy, culture, the political importance of a place in relation to its surroundings, and it is more critical and it is more dynamic in nature. Now because science is site is now although site is also dynamic in nature, now because with the concepts of climate change, with the concepts of weather pattern changes, and so site becomes also dynamic. Now sometimes you will be having flood even in protected areas, so because of climate change, and sometimes you don't find the favorable climatic conditions in those sites which you thought that this is a preferred site for a better climate or for a moderate climate. Now just like in today's time, now the coastal belts, I believe the coastal belts are the places which are largely or hugely inhabited by a large number of population. And why? Now because it actually provided a better or suitable climatic condition. But nowadays, if we'll be understanding the climatic condition of coastal areas also, now because of climate change and uh, the temperature even in summer season that actually goes beyond 40 degree Celsius, and due to high relative humidity, the living conditions will not be that great even in the coastal areas. So in that way, the site that we thought that it is favorable for us is now no, not so much favorable for us. So that's why to understand situation is also important. So that basically includes the economy, that basically includes the culture. Now because we basically start living within those places or within those regions which is having a better culture, which is having a better political stability. Now if people may not be willing to live in those regions which is having political instability. Now just like maybe in take the case of Pakistan, or take the case of some terrorism countries. So all these countries where you don't find the political stability, where you where so that is basically the situation, the concept of situation, and and that is much more vital, and that is much more dynamic in nature. So these are different. Okay, so these are the different concepts which are related to the settlements. Okay, site and situation. Then you have classification of settlements. So settlements can be classified on the basis of size. So on the basis of size, you have hamlet settlement, then you have a village, you have a town, city, metropolis, and megalopolis. So what do you mean by hamlet? Hamlet is basically a very small unit, and and those are basically dispersed settlements, and the spaces between the houses is very high. Okay, so these are basically hamlet settlements. Then you have a village. The concept of village is I think it is very easy to understand. Okay, and then you have a town, and there are different conditions. There are certain conditions that has been given by different administrative units or administrative organizations to consider a place as urban centers or to consider that place as rural areas. Okay. Then city is basically a more developed stage of a town, and then you have a metropolis, just like your metro cities and megalopolis, mega cities. So in metropolis, I think the population ranges between 1 to 5 million, and in megapolis it goes beyond 5 million population. So what are the classification of settlements based on form? What are the different types of settlements on the basis of forms? Okay, so first of all, you have dispersed settlement. As the name suggests itself, what does that mean? It means the settlements are sparsely actually the distance between the settlements will be very very high. Okay, and these kind of settlements are basically found in hilly regions, and you can see examples, the semi-arid regions of Rajasthan and the northeastern states. Okay, even in northeastern states you're gonna find dispersed settlements, and even in the Himalayan mountains. Then semi-compact or fragmented settlements. So these kind of settlements are you know the houses in these kind of settlements are closely spaced, but as compared to the dispersed settlements. Okay, so these kind of settlements can be easily found in Gangetic plains, mostly in UP, Bihar, and West Bengal regions, and these kind of semi-compact or fragmented settlements are very very well seen in the northern plains of India. Then you have compact settlement. So within compact settlement, that is also known as your clustered settlements or agglomerated settlements. So in which the space between the settlements is very less, and now because of the security regions. Okay, so the settlements are built, so they are basically closely spaced. Okay, and here in dispersed settlement, the settlements are basically widely spaced, while in semi compact, or these are also semi compact settlements. So then you have compact settlements. So within compact settlements, the houses are closely spaced, and you have different types of settlement on the basis of morphology or shape. So shape, linear shape is basically straight line. Okay, so these kind of settlements are basically found near the sites of roads or rivers. Then checkerboard pattern is basically this can be found in highways. Okay, and here you can see this. Okay, so this is basically a cross section, and this is a road, this is a road, and these are the settlements. So this is a checkerboard pattern. Then you have a radial pattern. So radial pattern, I think you know about different types of drainage pattern also. So it is basically centrifugal in nature. And triangular pattern. So triangular pattern basically found in those areas where two rivers basically meet or two rivers join. Now, because the land is fertile and the site is favorable for human settlement, a lot of people actually prefer to live there. Then arrow pattern are basically seen in the along the river meanders. Okay. Star pattern basically is seen nearby the roads. L-shaped may be nearby the roads or railway junctions. Fan-shaped are basically seen near the deltaic regions. So these are different types of settlement based on form. Sorry, based on shape. I think we have discussed about based on form. We have discussed. Then on the basis of function, what are the different types of settlement? You have rural settlement and you have urban settlement. Okay, so based on function, you have rural settlement and urban settlement will so in India, I think there are different criteria. So these are the criteria that are being used to consider a region as urban area or to consider that region as rural area. So which area can we consider as a urban area if that place is having a municipality or corporation, cantonment board, or notified town area committee? Okay, so then you should be having these following criteria. First, you should be having a minimum population of 5,000 and at least 75% of the male workers should be engaged in non-agricultural activities. Then then a population density should be more than 400. Yeah. So these are a different functional classification of settlement. Functional classification, basically you have rural settlements and urban settlements. So which are the different theories? Okay, so for the evolution of human settlements, so there are 4 theories that has been suggested by different social scientists, and these theories are basically the hydraulic theories, economic theories, military theories, and religious theories. So which are so which are the hydraulic theories? Hydraulic theories are basically the concept of surplus. You know, the concept of surplus that was so what is that concept? We have already discussed how a lot of people started settling down. In that we have already discussed about how cultivation or agriculture started in Neolithic phase. So once agriculture started, so there will be agricultural production. If the production, if there will be surplus production, then there will be, trade and commerce. So to support the trade and commerce, you need to have permanent settlement. Okay, so this is the theory which is supporting the idea of the surplus. And even you have other factors, just like favorable soil condition, climatic, climatic condition is also favorable. Then you have ample availability of water. So all these factors are included under the hydraulic theories. Okay. Then what are the economic theories and what is their point of view? So economic theory is basically the settlement as a marketplace. Settlement, here all those historians or all those social scientists, they argued the settlement as a marketplace. Now this is how the different economic activities actually helped in establishment of human settlements. So this is the theory, and in what ways the interpretation can be of two. It can be having two dimensions. One is mercantile and another is market. So mercantile is basically the settlement develops through long distance trades. So when there will be long distance trades, so in between we'll be having, now let's suppose a long distance trade will take place by sea route. So there will be port towns. Okay, so that will lead to the development of human settlement. So that is mercantile. And what is market? And marketplace is actually something which gives you the service. Okay, settlement focuses on internal process of exchange. So this is the economic theory. What is the military theory? So it basically deals with the security region. Settlements were established because of because a lot of people felt they need the protection, they need the security. So that's why these military theories has been propounded by uh, a lot of social scientists. Then what are the religious theories? Now with with the introduction of, I think, with the introduction of religion, with the introduction of believing in common cultures, believing in some common beliefs, people started uh, people started living in agglomerated areas. Now let's suppose I believe certain I believe in certain ideas. I respect certain beliefs. I respect uh, mm, different decisions that is being taken by someone. Then when we do have some common beliefs, then definitely we'll prefer to live together. Okay, so that is how this religious theories were propounded. So this is it about this unit. Okay, give me 2 minutes break, 2-3 minutes break. We'll continue. We'll continue from, I think, unit 11. Welcome back, everyone. We'll be starting with Unit 11. So it is basically about the spatial distribution of human settlement. And if we'll be looking into the introduction, so how human settlements became so large. So from hamlets, from villages, it became large cities. From small towns, it became million cities. It became mega cities. Okay, so their existence, growth, and decline of diverse settlements basically raise this question about the regions behind their variation over time, and even not only the temporal variation, it is also asking you questions about the spatial variation. Okay, now why a lot of places, or why a lot of regions do have a large urban places, or a large number of urban places, now uh, while other places do have less urban places, or why different places do have, or different places are inhabited by a large population, while uh, other settlements are inhabited by a very less population, or a very low population. Okay, so distribution of human settlements by size. So what are the different types of rural settlements based on size? So based on the size, okay, and a census of India has following categories. You have less than 200, 200 to 499. So all these are categories. All these are categories, and this is basically based on the size of population. We are dealing with the size of population. If if that village is having or that rural area is having a less than 200 population, then it will be categorized under this. If it is having a population more than 10,000, then this will be categorized under this. So this is a census of India classification. Then distribution of urban settlements by size, and here based on the world population review, uh, we can categorize into the urban places, or the urban settlements which is having a population size above 25 million, then urban places which is having a population in between 20 to 25 million, and urban places which is having a population of 10 to 20 million. Okay, so these are the important urban settlements in terms of population concentration. Now, because if we'll be looking into the number of cities that is having more than 25 million of population, we are having basically three cities. Okay, Tokyo, I think Tokyo is having somewhere around 37 to 38 million population, and so these are the classification based on the population. Now you can go through these classifications; these are very easy to understand. Then spatial and temporal trends in size and growth of urban settlements. So spatial and temporal trends uh, in developed countries. Okay, so within developed countries, definitely there will be suburbanization or development of suburbanization. And why? Now, why? Because a lot of people are interested in migrating to the city life. They are interested in living a city life. So that's why suburban areas, they develop very quickly in developed countries. So if we'll be understanding the spatial and temporal trends in developed countries, and what are the different activities that actually contributing to this kind of settlements, the growth of urban settlements in developed countries. So those are basically industrial and service sector growth, and a higher level income, then the improved living standards. So that basically contribute to the steady urban explanation, okay, urban settlement expansion. Then suburbanization becomes very prominent, so mostly in 20th century, and that is basically being characterized by residential developments on outskirts of large cities and towns. Now, do you understand the rural urban fringe? So it is basically a transitional region or transitional zone between the rural region and the urban region. So that is basically your rural urban fringe and what we call suburbanization. Now, all the elements or all the functions that is being performed in urban areas are not found in suburban areas, or even all the functions that can be found in rural areas cannot be found in the suburban areas. But a mixture of different cultures can be found in suburban areas. So that is basically your rural urban fringe. So mostly during the 20th century, the suburban or the suburbanization uh, uh, become very important. Okay, the suburbanization took place very rapidly in mostly in developed countries. We are basically discussing about the developed countries. Now, why this kind of suburbanization actually developed? What are the different driving forces behind suburbanization? So mostly because of pollution. Now, because if the large cities, large towns, that will be having a lot of pollution. Okay, so in now because of sound pollution, because of air quality. Now, sorry, air pollution. So there will be contributing industries like service sector and automobile industry. So all these are actually contributing to the air pollution, and so all these factors are basically the driving factors behind the suburbanization. Then you have traffic congestion. So definitely the large cities will be having large, that will be having traffic congestion. Now even a lot of issues. So one have to deal with if he or she is living within a large city. Okay, so that's why a lot of people, they started migrating towards the suburban areas. Now, although these suburban areas are located far from the workspace, and they still prefer to use some transport and communication facilities to reach from their home to the workplace. So still the migration was very prominent, and the development of rural urban fringe or these suburban places were actually very rapid. So spatial variation in suburban places or suburb regions. So what is that spatial spatial variation? Anna, so mostly the middle to upper income residents are living in American suburb regions. Okay, so that is spatial variation, and different suburban suburbanization took place in UK because of the land use restriction, okay, or the land use regulation. So once once the land use regulation came into existence in all the city areas, And let's think about a situation where the administration of the city, uh, uh, you know, administration actually tells you or tells people that you can't simply use this space for the settlement purpose, or this will be used only for green space management, this will be only used for the plantation of trees. So all these kind of restrictions actually helped in the development of suburban places in UK, while a lot of people in America now, because the pattern is different. The pattern of development of suburban places in England and suburban places in USA is very different. Now, because the mid to upper level income people, they started migrating towards the suburban places in USA, while in UK it was actually having some land use regulations or land use restrictions. That's why a lot of people started living or started residing in uh, the suburban places in UK. Then urban renewal and gentrification. Okay, so urban renewal basically addresses the complex urban problems. So that basically involves housing, transportation, sanitation, and more. And gentrification basically refers to the middle class settlement, which is now renovated in inner city areas, and uh, transforming social dynamics and even linked to post-industrial economic shifts. So gentrification is basically related to the middle class settlements, which are basically renovated in inner city areas. And these kind of situations are have took place in mostly developed countries. Then metropolitan areas and conurbations. So conurbation, what do you mean by conurbation? Conurbation is basically when two or more cities, they emerge or they grow together. So those are basically conurbations. So metropolitan cities started to expand in later 20th century in developed countries. And uh, uh, so you can take the example of USA, and then Tokyo in Japan. Okay, so all these are basically different metropolitan areas and conurbations. Then what is the situation of megalopolis? What is the situation of megalopolis in developed countries? So megalopolis basically we can see in different mega cities. Okay, so different mega cities, they just started developing in USA, even in Netherlands. So these are basically continuous urban regions formed by merging of multiple cities. Okay, so those are megalopolis. The term megalopolis was coined by Gene Gottman. Then what is the situation in developing countries? So definitely the situation in developing countries is very different as compared to the developed countries. Now why? Developing countries will be having a colonial impact on the urban settlements. Now take the example of India. Now Britishers ruled over us for more than 200 years, that we know actually. We have already studied in history. So what is that colonial impact? Now because if we'll be looking into uh, the major cities of India, okay, so just like Mumbai, Kolkata, Delhi, and Chennai, uh, so all these actually do have the colonial impact. So so these are these are influenced by no, this colonial impact is basically came from their culture in developing countries. Then after World War II, so mostly after World War II, a lot of independent cities came into existence, and you can study this one. Okay, so after World War II, what happened? A lot of countries, they got their independence. Okay, and they started believing in the idea of freedom. So in that way, different individual settlements, urban settlements, that came into existence. And what are the different challenges that is being faced by developing countries? Now take the case of a mega city, now just like Delhi or Mumbai. So now there is a huge resource imbalance, because there is a huge gap between the do and the don'ts. Now because a lot of people will be having, they will fall under the category of very high income brackets, while a lot of people who are living in those urban places do not even have money to expense their life's basic needs. Okay, so that's one of the challenges that is being faced by developing countries. And now because of the rapid growth of cities in developing countries or in developing spaces of the globe, a lot of people, they started believing in the idea of getting jobs or getting services in urban places. So that's why a lot of people, they started migrating from the rural areas to the urban places. So in that way, the urban places became very crowded, and so that actually led to the development of slums. Now, just like in developed countries, may or you may or may not find a lot of slums in the developed countries, but in developing countries, you will see a lot of slums. Now because a lot of low income group people, they already have migrated to the urban places. So when they will be settling there, so definitely the standard of living um, among a high income group among a high income group people and a low income group people will be very much different. So they will so that actually lead to the development of slums. Okay, so what are the
Sir,
different causes of slum growth?
best example is Dharavi in Mumbai.
Definitely, Maharabi in Mumbai, in India. Okay, and in developing countries like India, if you look into all the cities in Southeast in Asian nations, you can find different slums. Other than highly developed cities, other than highly planned cities, you will see a lot of slums. Then even in the developing countries, we will definitely see the emergence of new towns. Okay, so why new towns? Now because these cities or these towns are basically designed to alleviate the congestion in those urban places. Have you ever heard about the term satellite towns? The satellite towns were developed actually to support the main town. Now, take the case of Delhi. Okay, and different towns were developed to support Delhi. So all these towns will be called as satellite towns, and so these are basically the new towns. Okay, so they will providing services to the main town, and so with with the emergence of new towns, a lot of people also started migrating towards those places also. Okay. Theoretical models and empirical findings. So what are the different theoretical models which are there to understand different settlements, to understand the urban settlement mostly? And you have two models. One is rank size rule and another one is primate city. So what is rank size rule? Rank size rule is basically states that when all settlements are ranked by size, with the largest city having the first rank, the population of a town multiplied by its rank will equal the population of the largest city. So mathematically, we can represent that PR equals to P1 divided by R, where PR basically representing the population of the city with rank R, and P1 basically represents the population of the largest city. Now let's suppose, now here you have the example. Now let's suppose the population of the largest city is 3 lakh. Okay, if the population of the largest city is 3 lakh and we want to know the population of the fifth, fifth largest city, then we can simply divide the population of the largest city divided by the rank of that city. So that will be, so it will come as the 60,000 population. So most probably the fifth rank urban place or fifth rank city or fifth rank town will be having a population of around 60,000. Okay, so this has been given by J.K. Jiff, a very well-known figure in urban geography. Okay, so he postulated this idea by studying different towns of the USA. And Jefferson also did the same thing. He also studied the towns of USA and gave that primate city concept. Okay, so within so what is the significance of rank size relationship? So what JKG first told, if the rank size relationship holds consistently across a country, so that basically indicates the maintenance of national unity through an integrated urban system. He's talking about the integrated urban system. Now, nowadays, if you'll be looking into the data, now most of the urban places of a country is not following the rank size rule, and that has been given by JKJ, but he has told about an ideal integrated urban system. So that's why he has given this rank size rule. Okay, and one Indian professor named R. Ramachandran. So he studied the implications of rank size rule in India based on the 1981 census data sets. And he found the binary patterns and the primate patterns. What does that really mean? Binary patterns and primate patterns. Now let's suppose okay, so which is a binary pattern. Now let's suppose India is having different cities. Okay, so the first city is having a population of, let's say, 1 crore, and the second city is having a population of 50 lakhs. So that means it is following this line. Okay, it is following the rank size rule or the rank size pattern. So it will be following this line. But what is binary pattern? If one city is having 1 crore population and another city is also having 1 crore population, then it will be following the binary pattern. Okay, so this is the binary pattern. Binary pattern means two or more cities will be having similar kind of population. So definitely this will not be following the rank size rule. So that's why this will follow the binary pattern. And what is pre-made pattern? Pre-made pattern is basically when one city is having a huge population as compared to the other cities. Now, just like if India will be having a city, let's suppose the city is X and that is having 1 crore population, and all the cities other than this city X is having a population of less than, let's say, 10 lakhs. What does that really mean? So this city X is having a population which is more than 10 times the second city. So what does that really mean? It is having the urban supremacy. So that is the concept of primate pattern. Okay, so these are the three deviations, or these are the two deviations that has been found by Ramachandran. And what is the concept of primate city? Primate city has been propounded by Mark Jefferson in 1939, and he observed, okay, the population size of first ranked city is more than double of that of the second ranked city, and even 5 times greater than the third ranked city. Okay, so he has given this concept by studying different towns of USA. So by Jefferson, if city X is the third largest city, let's suppose, and city Y is the second largest city, and city Z is the first, okay, is the most largest city. So what does he mean? If the population of this city is 1 lakh, then the city of first, the most populous city will be having a population more than 5 lakhs. Okay, so it will be having a population which is more than the third ranked city, and it will be having more than double the population of second ranked city. So this is the concept that has been propounded by Mark Jefferson. Now here you can look into the formula, and it is basically the pi which is equal to p1 divided by sum of p2, p3, p4 up to px. Okay, and the concept of primate city is very much applicable to the city of Kolkata and its nearby places. Okay, not other parts of India. Now, because if you understand different different conditions of Kolkata, it is having the site advantage and the situation advantage also. Now, because it is one of the traditional cities of India, and it is also one of the colonial towns. So it is having a riverine port, and a lot of resources are also there. So that basically supported the city. Okay, so that's why Kolkata is very huge, and all the cities which are nearby are basically they basically follow the primate city rule. Okay, so the last unit, so it's about the functional classification of human settlement. We'll be looking into the functional classification of rural settlements and the functional classification of urban settlements. What are the different approaches which we follow to classify different settlements based on its function? Okay, so qualitative measures can be taken, different quantitative measures can be taken. So all these will be looking into this. Okay. So whenever we'll be classifying any urban place or any rural place based on its function, it becomes very much difficult. Now, because why? Now, because it is very subjective in nature. Now, if I am a geographer, maybe I will find a city of Odisha, just like Bhubaneswar, as administrative town, while other people they may find this as a commercial town, while other people may find it as an educational hub. So, based on the bias of the author, based on the bias of different scholars. So there comes the subjectivity. So that's why it becomes very difficult. Okay, and that is why now because whenever we are discussing about the urban places, it do not perform a singular function. It is basically multifunctional in nature. Okay, and even there are settlement differences. So if we'll be looking into different functions that is being performed by the urban settlements, like no different kinds of economic activities and administrative functions are different. Even they do provide different types of services which are basically major services. So unless and until you quantify those functions, it becomes very difficult uh, to categorize those towns based on one function. Okay, so we simply mean cities, we simply know that urban centers are multifunctional in nature. So what are the different methods? So what are the different models and methods for explaining the functional classification of towns and villages? We basically have three models. One is qualitative method, one other is qualitative cum quantitative methods, then you have quantitative methods. So within qualitative within qualitative models, that basically represents the initial stage in functional analysis of any settlements. Okay, and there are different persons has given a lot of classification based on the qualitative method or the qualitative model. Now just like Marcel Orosio. Okay, so she was an Australian geographer, so who has classified different towns into 6 classes. Okay, so he classified different towns into 6 classes, and further she has divided different subclasses into 8 subtypes. Okay, so this is the table that has been or these are the classification that has been given by Marcel. So what are the different criticisms that has been received by Marcel? Now although it is very simple and although it is very comprehensive and comprehensive in nature, but mostly it is very much generalized. Okay, so all these classifications are very much generalized, and if we'll be looking into some classification, just like tidal limit town. Now this is confusing. This is confusing in terms of communication. Now because tidal limit town has been used, the subfield has been used in communication towns. So also this subsection is also confusing. And one of the most important things Marcel actually forgot to include is the economic activities. Okay, so the function of economic activities is basically is not here. So that is one of the greatest criticism received by Marcel. And these are basically personal observations, so that will be very subjective in nature. So although although it is having its own importance. Why? Now it laid the foundation of classification of different cities. Okay, so these are different qualitative classification of urban settlements. Then comes qualitative cum quantitative methods. So within qualitative cum quantitative methods, different qualitative aspects has been taken, and different quantitative aspects also has been taken. Now just like D. Harris, so he presented a functional classification of cities in USA, okay, United States, and he has taken the occupational figures and employment figures. Okay, what are the different occupation? Okay, and what percentage of workers are preferring that occupation? Now based on that, he has classified the town. So basically it is semi qualitative in nature, so that's why it is included, it was included under the qualitative cum quantitative approach. So these are the different classification that has been given by Harris. You can go through it. Then comes the quantitative models. So quantitative models, as Nelson has given quantitative models, so in which he has used I think standard deviation and mean to calculate different classification of the cities. Okay, so these are the classifications. So here he has taken the average and standard deviation. Okay, average and standard deviation, these are the three classes which he used: average plus 1 standard deviation, average plus 2 standard deviation, average plus 3 standard deviation. Now although the methodology is very long, due to time constraints I can't simply explain this one. You can go through R.C. Tiwari, the settlement geography by R.C. Tiwari. I think you'll understand it better, this methodology section. Okay, so what it is telling us and how different towns has been classified. And other people, other geographers has also given different types of quantitative models in classifying different towns. Now just like Cornwall, okay, Cornwall, who attempted in New Zealand to calculate the employment of different groups, and he has given 6 functions based on the occupations. Okay, and then this is one of the most important classification that has been given by Nelson, and this is the quantitative method. Then John Wave's indices. So John Wave has also given a classification in USA based on the functional index and a specialization index. Okay, so all these, I think all these classifications are well written in R.C. Tiwari book. You can follow that book, or you can simply follow the R.L. Singh book. Okay. Then functional classification of urban centers, and I believe these are very easy. You can go through by your own. We'll just discuss in bullet points. Okay, so what are the different functional classification of urban center? Now here we are basically using the generic functions. Okay, this is a very general classification. And what are the major functional categories of urban centers? You have administrative towns. So administrative towns are basically capitals, so which do have administrative control over the state. Okay, and now just like New Delhi being the capital of India, just like Bhubaneswar being the capital of Odisha. So all these are basically administrative towns. Then you have industrial towns. So industrial towns do perform manufacturing as their primary activity. Okay, not primary activity by mean I am not considering primary activity mean agricultural activity. Now this is the most important, manufacturing is the most important activity in industrial town. Okay, So then you have commercial towns. So manufacturing towns like Chicago, Detroit, Glasgow, Shanghai, Jamshedpur. So all these are manufacturing towns. Then commercial towns. Towns are basically all the trade centers that we have are basically commercial town. Market towns and commercial towns are somewhat similar in nature. And how they are different? Market towns do provide you different types of services as compared to trade. Okay. uh, but commercial towns mostly engage in terms of commerce only, trade and commerce only. Then seaport towns are basically those towns which are near, which are actually the seaports, and they do provide different services. So that's why a lot of people started living there, or a lot of people started settling there. Then transport towns basically do provide us different services which are related to uh, different types of transportation. Okay, now railway junctions, then just like San Francisco, Paris, Berlin. So all these are transport towns. Then which are mining towns? So mining towns are all those towns where mining is basically being done, and these mining towns become ghost towns later on. Ghost towns are basically all those towns so which has been left by all the people after this mining activity has been completed. So definitely if no value will be provided by that site, then a lot of people will be migrating to other places. So there comes the concept of ghost towns. Then you have educational towns which do provide you the educational services just like university towns. Okay, Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Santiniketan. So all these are the educational towns. Then you have religious towns. So religious towns are those places which are related to some sort of religion. Okay, and religious places or pilgrimages. So their existence is entirely based on the religious significance only. Now, just like Kasi, Dwarka, Haridwar, Mecca, Medina, the Vatican City. So all these are um, different cities which are only related to the religion. And then you have military towns, which are also cantonment towns or defense towns. So which do provide the military services, and it is a different strategic services are being provided by these towns now because it is having some military bases. Then resort or recreation towns, as the name itself suggesting, a lot of people they travel to a lot of places because of, let's say, the natural beauty. So all these are basically the recreation towns. Okay, just like Los Angeles, Srinagar, Gulmarg, Manali, Darjeeling. So all these are the recreational towns or resort towns. Then you have diversified towns. Diversified towns do they are very much multifunctional in nature, and they do provide a lot of services. Okay, so just like New Delhi, Mumbai, Chicago, New York. So all these towns do provide you a lot of functions. Okay, then functional typology of villages. So those are basically all the functions or functional classification of urban settlements. Now here we'll be looking into what are the different functions that is being performed by the rural settlements. So it is having an environmental function, so which is basically related to air, water, soil, timber, and animal, etc. Then you have an economic function, so that is basically being performed by the population through agricultural production or through you know through hunting and gathering, through livestock and rearing of animals. So all these activities, all these economic activities actually performing this economic function. Then what are the socio-cultural functions? Socio-cultural functions are basically the cultural aspect of the rural areas or the rural settlements. Now it will be including the living, education, health, and political needs, and so these are different functions that has been listed by Blad in 2010, and it is having it do perform the functions of conservation, preservation of landscape, architecture related, land development and building structure, etc. So all these are different functions that is being performed by the rural settlements. The Wilkin also, these are similar kind of or related concepts. You can go through it. Okay, these are very related concepts now, because these are different functions that is being performed by the rural settlements. Then what is the functional landscape? Do you understand the landscape? Landscape is basically a mixture of landforms. Now, whenever we are discussing about the natural landscape, it is something different. We are now whenever we are talking about the natural landscape, we look into rivers, plateaus, plains, and all the physiographical features that is available on nature. But whenever we are dealing with the cultural landscape, here the functional landscape of rural areas, basically the meaning of this landscape is something different. Okay, the meaning of this landscape is different. It is not physical in nature. So what are the different functional landscapes? Okay, and functional landscapes are basically inhabited areas. So which are the inhabited areas? All those regions which are inhabited by people, and different houses has been built. So all these villages are inhabited areas. Then uncultivated land, including gardens, then inner agricultural land, middle agricultural land, and outer agricultural land. So these are different functional landscapes of rural areas. Mostly these are the functional landscapes of rural areas. So a landscape is being provided in villages where a lot of people are living in agglomeration or in clustered settlement, let's say. Okay, so then you have uncultivated lands. Okay, so that is basically having another landscape, those places which are not cultivated. Then you have agricultural landscape, which has been divided into inner agricultural land, then middle agricultural land, and outer agricultural land. So likewise, what are the different functional landscapes of urban areas? So the functional landscapes of urban areas are basically commercial in nature, residential in nature, administrative in nature, educational. So all these are different functions that are being performed by a city or any urban place. Okay, so commercial function. So within commercial function, it is performing trade and commerce. So within residential function or residential landscape, if a lot of people are living in the city area, so that is basically residential function. Administrative function, it is basically maintaining the law and order of that city, so that is administrative function. Educational services are being provided. So likewise, these are the functional class or functional landscapes of urban settlements. You have CBD. CBD is the central business district, and it is basically near the center of any city, and that do provide a lot of services. Okay, so that is the focal point, and that actually provide you a lot of services. That's why it is known as the central business district. So these are basically different functional landscapes of urban settlements, functional landscapes. Okay, educational areas, manufacturing areas. Now because the landscape, okay, now the physical landscape and the cultural landscape in these areas will be something different. Okay, now let's take the case of manufacturing area. What will be the physical landscape? The physical landscape will be, it will be having a lot of machineries, a lot of workers will be working there. So they will be manufacturing a lot of a lot of products. So that is the physical landscape. And what will be the cultural landscape? Cultural landscape will be all those people who are living there. Now, what are the different types of services they are providing? Okay, what are the types of shops you can see in and around those manufacturing areas? So maybe you'll be having hardware stores. So mostly in manufacturing areas you may not see restaurants. Okay, now while in educational area the physical landscape and the cultural landscape will be something different from that of the manufacturing area. Okay, so the educational areas, the cultural landscape will be like a lot of a lot of students will be studying. There will be a lot of educational institutions, and these are uh, these are physical landscape. Okay, and what is the cultural landscape? Cultural landscape will be built by the students, will be built by the teachers. So if the students will be requiring a lot of notes, so they will be going to all the book shops and all the notebook shops, and what are the different types of services that actually being required by a student. So all those kind of shops can be found nearby the educational area. So that will define the cultural landscape of uh, this educational area. Okay, so you can go through the religious area, the cultural area, parks and open spaces which are easily found in urban areas. Okay, otherwise there will be traffic congestions. Then what are the different other services which are found in uh, the urban areas? Okay, so I think this is the last one, a functional structure of towns in India. What is the functional structure of towns in India? So different economic activities are actually performed by different urban centers, and if we'll be looking into different urban centers of India, they are very different in nature, and all the big cities of India or all the big urban places of India are basically colonial basis, and maybe they do have the historical impact. Okay, and and those areas are engaged, or a lot of people in urban centers, they engage themselves in a range of economic activities covering from primary to tertiary activities. Now even though primary activities are very rare in urban places, but still those can be found in urban areas. Okay, secondary and tertiary activities are easily found. What are the different functional classifications in India? Different scholars, okay, different scholars has given different classifications. Amrit Lal in 1951, so categorized 1 lakh cities with methodological deficiencies. Then Janaki in 1954, so who grouped Kerala towns into functional categories. Okay, and then Prakash Rao, who used least square regressional analysis basically uh, uh, for classifying the functions of a city. Then Ganguly, who applied Nelson's standard deviation method to classify 250 Indian cities. Okay, so a lot of, then Ashok Mitra, so he is one of the most uh, this is one of the most widely accepted classification. He used the 1961 census data, okay, for the functional classification of different towns. So he has classified uh, different, okay, 9 categories of workers of all urban areas in India. So they are basically cultivators, agricultural laborers, forestry, fishing, plantation. All these basically include your primary sector. Then household industry, manufacturing other than household industry. These are basically, manufacturing is basically secondary in nature. Construction, trade and commerce, transport and storage, communication, and different types of services. So this kind of classification, these are basically your tertiary sector or tertiary activities. So these are the 9 classes where to which most of the workers of the urban places they belong in. This has been classified in 1961. Okay, so this is the Ashok Mitra's classification, and so this is it for today. And if you have any doubt or questions, then ask me. And about the questions that you have asked in the previous class, that you haven't supplied with different study materials, I think Ratnakar sir will answer it. Okay, so if you have any doubts regarding what we have already studied, then you can ask.
Hello.
Okay, Rakesh,
Yes,
do
sir.
you have any questions?
I have no question in doubt. Only sir, the children receive book or not?
Actually, what about the study materials?
Yes.
Actually, what the regional center of Bhubaneswar has told me, it is not their responsibility. It will be supplied by Delhi, okay, IGNOR Delhi, to your postal addresses. So they even don't have any information regarding this.
Sir, can you give your number, sir? If any problem, you can call. If you,
Yeah, Ratnakar sir is online. Actually, Ratnakar sir is online. You can ask any questions.
hello.
Hello,
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
good evening.
Sir, can you get study material on time or not? Already, sir, January.
ଷ୍ଟଡି ମେଟେରିଆଲ ଦିଲ୍ଲୀରୁ ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଆଡ୍ରେସରେ ଆସିବ। ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱରରେ ଆପଣଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ଆଭେଲେବଲ ନାହିଁ।
Same କଥା ଆମେ ଶୁଣୁ।
Out sir,
ମୁଁ
question
ଏବେ
sir, second, no, good evening sir.
ହଁ बोलिए।
Good evening.
हाँ तो सेकेंड सेमिस्टर ପାଇଁ sir କିଛି study material ବି available ନାହିଁ। ଫାର୍ଷ୍ଟ ସେମିଷ୍ଟାର ବି ବ୍ଲକ
ନାଇଁ
କେତେଟା ବି
ନାଇଁ
available ନାହିଁ। ଅନଲାଇନ
ଷ୍ଟଡି
ଅନଲାଇନ
ମେଟେରିଆଲ
ମେଟେରିଆଲ କଥା କହୁଛି ମୁଁ।
ଅନଲାଇନ ମେଟେରିଆଲ ତ ଅଛି ଯାହା ଇ ଜ୍ଞାନକୋଶରେ ଅଛି।
ମୋ ଫାର୍ଷ୍ଟ ସେମିଷ୍ଟର ପାଇଁ ବ୍ଲକ ଗୋଟେ ଆମର ଯୋଉ ପଢା ଚାଲିଛି